Hello and welcome to this episode of the Regen Ag Chat. My name's Liz Jennifer.
And I'm Nick Relison.
So, Nick, we're going to be talking to Will shortly, but just before that, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? Well, yesterday I nearly fainted in my newfound love of saunering. Got slightly low blood pressure and nearly keeled over. Slightly embarrassing. But I'm really loving it. I don't know if anyone else is into saunas. And I know it's like the kind of new hot thing at the minute to do, but I love it. But farm-wise, we PD'd, had a relatively good PD session. Got a new flock of chickens coming this week. But I've just found February quite dark. I think Renault's in a bit of a depression. And it just seems to be endless. Endless dark. Well, this wind, we've had a lot of helm wind. And yeah, just not enjoying it that much.
But you haven't been as wet as other bits, have you, up your way?
Compared to you, Liz, I've been very dry. We just get wind in all areas. But yeah, we haven't had it's
Such a new healthy eating.
the cows came in. I think it was the 12th of February, which was really good. That was like a goal, and we got to there, so that's saved quite a bit of cash. But we've just had the helm wind for a long time, but we haven't had the rain that you've had. To hear you moaning about the rain, I find mildly entertaining.
As someone who's never experienced rain every day, that's what we've experienced since sometime. It feels like October, but it's probably not. It's January, and I think it's for us. It's just like we've been moving sheep a lot, fencing, moving. So it's amazing how much extra jobs or time it creates.
But what's
So
interesting is there's been all this chat from particularly further south about relentless rain. You know, like people who live in cities have been moaning about relentless rain. But is this climate change?
well, it's a stuck weather pattern, isn't it, at the moment? I did a meeting where it was the sort of people are acknowledging the weather was like they didn't like the weather, but then we got into like climate change denial. And so I find it really fascinating. And you hear when we had a chat with Will is that some of it is our attitude towards the weather, but yeah, it has felt relentless. But then then when the sun comes out, the world is a better place, isn't it? So you realise it doesn't take very much.
But is
Really.
this so? Our chat today is quite water related, and
Yes.
so have all of your reservoirs, are they all brimming over the top? Is
They're
that
getting
kind of
there. Yeah. And after the season we had last year, obviously everything needed to recharge, and it does feel like it has recharged. So our ponds are generally up to the top levels that most of them get to. So yeah, it feels like it's a proper recharge of where we are. So yeah, it wouldn't have been great to have a dry winter. So we've identified some areas for some new ponds, we think, as well. Just the areas that want to lie wet. So we'll do that too when we can get there. Yeah, and we're also still in the conversations about ironically getting 2 pipelines across the farm as well. So there's going to be water everywhere.
And what about lambing? When does that start?
18th of March, apart from one mistake. We've got a
I
pair.
saw that.
Yeah, so we had a pair early. But they're doing okay. And then yeah, most of them we've got some housed, which we wouldn't do, just because we've run out of places to put them. So we've got one group housed, ewe lambs have been housed, singles are being managed on quite tight covers, and I've got a group of sheep that are currently working through some arable fields. So they'll be, when it dries up a bit, they'll be onto some grazing some wheat and some margins. I've been up to the North York Moors, spent a couple of days up there, so that was nice to go and see those guys again. Similar stories. But then I've got areas or people that are out wintering and cattle have been out longer, so they just manage covers better, and so it's all very possible, isn't it? And then I had a bit of a blast at some conferences. So I talked at East Midlands Farming Conference, and then I went to that summit down in London, so that was good. So yeah, I've had quite a nice month, but yeah, I've got fit pushing electric fencing around. And then yeah, did some Up to You meetings as well with Neris, so busy doing them too.
So we talked then about the kind of general low mood in farming, and this chat we've got with Will, he keeps himself very buoyant by learning new things and being very open. And I think he's a really good example of a kind of positive mental attitude. But going back to Will, how did we first meet Will?
So I've known him through a discussion group I used to, or still sort of involved in at Welland Valley. So he was part of that, and then there was a gang of us, wasn't there, at one of the Althorpe meetings. So he'll talk about a guy called Tom. And so Tom, we've done meetings with, and he was at our groundswell session, and he is as tall as a phone box. That's his email address. And Will is just slightly shorter. So after spending 2 days with them at Althorpe, I had to go for osteopath treatment of my neck because my neck's not very good. I'm just over 6 foot, and my neck isn't used to bending. So now when I speak to them, I either have to stand further away or preempt it with some stretching. Anyway, we digress. So yeah, and he was always, he's always sort of whenever anybody talks about him, he is always known as this person doing things a bit differently. So he has this reputation of being busy doing lots of things, but also doing things differently. So that is very evident from the conversation. And I suppose the reason why we spoke to him, and bearing in mind this is in the sort of Be the Change series, is that because of his proximity to Sarah Bell, the Rutland farm, is that some of the work he's doing and sort of using some of his expertise and working with Sarah to see what she's already doing, what she can adapt for her situation. So that's the link up really. And you'll also within the podcast hear about really early stages of getting an Anglian Water cluster project. And will be involved in that. So through the next 3 years, we're hoping to create this sort of more developed network of people who are doing stuff like Will. That it does sometimes feel like a bit of a lonely place to be.
And at the very end of the chat, he mentions BHAG. And at the time, we just kind of went, oh, yeah, okay. And then we both independently had to Google BHAG, which means
big, hairy, audacious goals.
Will's a bit younger than us. I think that might be, well, he's a lot younger than me. That might be partly why we didn't know this. Do you think?
Possibly, but maybe we need to develop our own. Maybe we've got them. And we just didn't know that was the word that we needed to use or the phrase we needed to use.
Well, I'll have to think about a big, hairy, audacious goal.
Oh, I also thought it was big, hairy arse goal. It's not. It's audacious.
Okay.
So yes, next time we're going to have a BHAG to talk about.
So I guess we can now start our chat with Will.
Yes, we can.
Evening, Will. Thank you for joining Liz and I. First of all, can you tell us a little bit about you as a youngster growing up on the farm and your kind of path into, as a teenager?
So, yeah, hi everybody. I live and farm in Northamptonshire in partnership with my mother and father. We're a mixed farm of sheep and predominantly arable, contract farming as well, and just some straight contracting, so a bit of variety. My background isn't actually farming fully. I've always had the passion and wanted to do it ever since a young kid. Always loved the livestock side, always loved the tractors and everything else. But when I was leaving school, I was advised not to come back. Farming was probably on the downturn and things were not as rosy as they could be in the time in the industry. So he said, go away, get a different industry. I actually stayed on, did sixth form, which I never thought I would, and then went to do a degree, but part-time, in an apprenticeship course in structural and civil engineering. So I did that for 7 years or so. And then we took on another block of land and I either came home or they employed someone else. So I said I was keen. I'd always still kept the love for it, spent all my holiday time and everything else doing it. And at the end of the day, farming is where my heart was. So I said yes, quit the job, but with the caveat that I wanted to go travelling. So I came home, did the harvest, and then I think it was end of September, October, I hopped on a plane and went to Australia, did 3 or 4 months there, and then came back. And yeah, that's kind of history. We're here working on the farm, became a partner a few years ago.
Did you enjoy your time at uni doing the degree? Did you ever any one time think, oh, this is possibly what I'm going to do?
I had always got in the back of my head, not a grudge, just like, oh, perhaps I should have just gone to ag college or something else. And I thought, oh, but then actually in the long run, it's kind of helped because it's an extra string to my bow. We've done barn conversions and built houses. We've put buildings up and everything else. And it has helped a lot, definitely. And I've got the brain that's got to be busy. So I did enjoy it a lot. And I definitely, anybody who wants to do that side of thing, look at the apprenticeship side, because you don't come out with a deck because they pay for it, the company do. And it was a good laugh, to be fair, definitely. And it stood me in good stead, if you know what I mean, definitely.
And you probably made lots of mates outside of farming.
Yeah, definitely. They all came from all over the country. So that was quite nice. Still probably didn't get the uni life because it was only one day a week, but I kind of led that through Young Farmers, still quite involved with that. So, and I'd always been involved still with the farm at harvest and everything else. I'd have time off from work to go and do it, and they were pretty flexible with it. But yeah, I did some big concreting projects and different bits, university buildings in Cambridge and stuff like that. So it's quite nice to say that you put your name to it and everything else, if you know what I mean, and yeah, got a degree out of it. So yeah, if nothing else, it's always there. If everything else goes peak tongue and you need to go back to something else.
Will, in terms of Northamptonshire, what is it famous for? If people aren't familiar with farming of Northamptonshire, what are the soils like? How hilly is it?
Very, very variant. So we farm everything from about 50% clay to some real ironstone sandy land, boys land as they call it. Northamptonshire is probably famous. Oh, I don't know. There's lots of stately homes and quite a lot of big estates within Northamptonshire. It's a mixed county. It's not just all arable. There's a lot of cattle and livestock as well. It's also, one thing we'll probably talk on in a bit is the catchments. Anglian Water, we're in here. I can't remember the fact that she told me the other day. Something to do with the most reservoirs or something like that, natural catchment areas rather than borehole things for within the Anglian Water area. I can't remember the actual fact now. But yeah, no, quite a nice place. Always lived here. The only other place I've ever been is to Australia and far away to live, and that's about it.
And it's also famous for distribution centres. There's a lot of distribution centres. I suppose is that Rugby, Warwickshire, perhaps?
No, it's probably just on it. We're very well connected with roads because of the M1, M6, A14. It is easily accessible, definitely. So then that makes all the train like Durft and everything else coming in there. Tesco's and people like that have got their big refrigerator buildings and everything else. So they're on the border over there. The one would be at Durft, at Crick and whatnot. But yeah, it's an easy to get to place, we should say.
And I suppose also bearing that in mind, me, you, Nick, Tom, we made the tall sort of group, didn't we, at the Althorpe meeting. It's probably where we all sort of realised that we're mates when Nicole Masters came over. So you were well on that train before that meeting, weren't you? So just talk us through your sort of interest in, whether we call it regenerative or biological. What got your interest started in that slightly different way of thinking about farming?
So I suppose because I've never really had the ag training from college, I'm not saying other people who have been ag trained or got college or anything haven't, but it's always, my mind's always wandered, should we say, and looked at different things. And it probably was, the main bit started when I was in Australia. I worked for a bloke called Cam McKellar, who was a very, very forward thinking farmer. I'd probably call himself a biological farmer more than, well, regen probably wasn't there 10, 11 years ago or whenever it was I was there. But that's where I kind of got the bug for it, that he wasn't just going out plastering things with chemical and everything else. So it almost opened my eyes that there was potentially another way to look at it, like more than one way to skin a cat, and just try different things. Keep your mind open. If something doesn't work, don't worry about failure sometimes to a certain extent, but you've always got to have a backup plan. And he was the one who got me into the water structuring and foliar fertilizer. So that's where it all began, definitely. Because a lot of people, I remember a day we were there and one of his crops had got I can't remember what, but aphids or something on it. I can't remember what it was. And the agronomist, who was actually quite an open-minded agronomist, to be fair to him, they decided they weren't going to spray it, and that was quite a shock to me at the time. I thought, well, why not? I've only ever known if you've got a pest, you need to go and spray it. And because they'd got the plant so much healthier, and we'd only just been through with foliar fur and a package of trace minerals and stuff. I think we had it didn't actually affect it, and it didn't really come to anything. And that just kind of opened my eyes that perhaps we don't just need to kill everything. There might be another way to look at it, and or different set of eyes on. So yeah, that's kind of where it started in Australia, definitely.
So how long ago was that, Will?
2011, I think, because then I came back in 2012. I was away, and they'd had no rain hardly at all over the winter up here when it was winter here. And then we went into 2012. Yeah, so it was 11-12 actually, because then we went into 2012. And we had that horrendous autumn whereby it was wet, horrible, and everything was just kind of snot, wasn't it? If I remember rightly.
Spent all your time wishing you were back in Oz.
Yeah. Well, I only came back for lambing because I'd got the deadline. I'd got to be back to help lamb. And I think I don't know whether quite what had happened, but I think there was 2 left to lamb by the time I got home. So I got in trouble for that because the old man had been doing the nights, whereas I'd normally do the nights. And the embarrassing thing was I told everybody that I was going back to lamb. And they said, "Oh, how many thousand sheep you got?" And I said, "Oh, we've only got 300 at the time." And they were like, "Well, what are you bothering to do that for?" So yeah, that made me feel really inadequate. But
so then did you come home and stay home?
Yeah, then I came home and stayed home. Yeah. And we've built from there on bits we're doing. I'll be honest, a lot of the stuff just ticked over in my mind. Cam always said, "Oh, a lot of this stuff we're doing in Australia will always work in the UK because you have a better climate for it. It's not such an arid climate whereby it's dry and everything, and you don't know whether you're going to get the rain. You know you're going to get the rain at some point. So a lot of it should work." I mean, he was cover cropping. He got some wacky cover crops with pumpkins and all sorts, and it was really interesting how he'd gone to the Acres conference. That was it when I was there, and he'd come back, and I never did listen to it. There was a 2-hour lecture on Roundup and how it was knackering everything up and they needed to stop using it. And everybody still then thought Roundup was safe, and we still use it a lot, I'm not going to lie. But not as much as we used to. But things like that, when you just think there is always another perspective to it, definitely.
Get Nick started on Roundup.
No, don't get me started. No, we can talk about Roundup. I'll just write that on my list.
He left and went for 2 weeks, I think it was, over there, and then came back with more snippets, which filled my head full of even more stuff that at the time. I said to Ben the other day, I said, I wish I could go now and know what I know now and listen more, because he probably told me a lot more other stuff. Because I met Ian and Di Haggerty out there. So have you ever heard of them?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
They're big 65,000 acres farming regeneratively, and they'd won Soil Farmer or something of the year, and Camma came second. And I never really paid a lot of attention to it, but some of the stuff they were coming out even then, back in 2011, was phenomenal, to be fair to them. So yeah, we're not a long way behind, but sometimes you just got to broaden your horizons. And even if it in a different country, you got to think how it could work in your context as much as anything, or whether it could. And that's what my inquisitive brain is always looking at the next thing, which I do get moaned at a lot for.
But do you think because it's such a harsh place to be growing crops, but do you think that's why the focus has been higher in Australia, because it was more difficult to grow crops? They had to try lots of different ways.
Yes, I think it's partly to do with that they're in harsher. They've probably they work on a one in 8 years, maybe, making them a lot of money, and then a couple of being okay, and then a few droughts. I also think that their soils are a lot more knackered. As somebody said the other day, they're at a lower starting point because they have done the cotton a lot more and things like that, and they've probably knackered it up a lot more already compared to where we are. So they've got a lower starting point, which has then made them have to be even more efficient as well. But yeah, it's interesting to see their other ideas and how they do cope with it.
So when you came back, did your dad was farming away, and what was going on the farm then, and what kind of things were you doing to your land?
So the year I left, we'd just bought a Claydon drill. So we'd started to go down the strip till route of less soil movement. And I remember a vivid moment. We were walking across the 100-acre field, and this was the year before I went, and we just got this cloddy seed bed, and we were just like, well, what are we going to do with it? It was just sitting there, thick, horrible clods and everything else, and we'd bashed it about, and then we'd bashed it again. And there was another time where my uncle had come, and he'd sat on a power harrower on one end of a field for 6 hours trying to bash it down. And it was just like, what are we doing to it? There's got to be an easier way to do it, because you plough it all up. Fair enough, we still do some ploughing and when you need to, and I'm not knocking ploughing, everyone has their own ways, but it was a bit of a turning point for us, definitely, to have the Claydon drill to get us down that route of moving less soil. 2012, the first autumn, wasn't the best one, if you know what I mean, but it was just because it was just so wet more than anything, and unless you got anything in really early, it wasn't any good. But so we were Claydon drilling. We'd probably got about 300 sheep, but they were still very, what I'd call, conventional, indoors. We'd lamb in February to get them out of the way, try and get most of the lambs off before were harvesting and everything else. And heavy chemical input. Our old agronomist was an old school agronomist. Every timing that you could do, we would be putting chemical on. To be fair to Dad, he would always try and rein him in, or have a discussion with him, definitely, whether it was going to be worthwhile or not. So yeah, a lot more conventional compared to nowadays.
He actually was in the bar at Groundswell. We had a quick conversation about an agronomist, or various agronomists. So have you found a perfect agronomist, do you think, to help you?
Yeah, we've got 3 different agronomists depending on what farm or where we are or whatnot. So where we do a lot of contract spraying, he's a very conventional agronomist. We don't have a lot of say in that. We just do pass to pass more than anything, and do other bits and bobs for him. So that's one end of the spectrum. Our next one, who is very open-minded and a good friend of mine, he does a couple of the other farms, and he as an agronomy company, they are becoming a lot more, and have become a lot more. I think he, and especially his boss, thought I was absolutely mental in some of the stuff and couldn't quite understand why I was doing what I was doing. And I think we've about got through that now and understand each other a lot better. I think a lot of it does come down to communication, in that they're wanting to, they take pride in it as much as anybody else, if you know what I mean. But their pride is that it's going to look perfect and everything else, but that all comes at a cost. And when you've got wheat falling prices and the market's not that good, you've really got to not rein them in, but just have the discussion as to what you are going to do and what you're not going to do and how much risk. Dad always says that the risk aversion now has gone up, like the risk of doing it and growing a crop has gone twofold because of having the cost element now. When wheat was at £200 a tonne, then you haven't got that worry. You know it's going to make money and it pays to do it, if you know what I mean. But when it's at 160 at the moment, it's not quite as much. And then with the third one, we've just employed Ben Taylor Davis. He does ours and one other. And to be fair to him, I've learned more from him in the last 2 years than I have probably in the 10 years I've been home. So I can't knock him. He's got a fountain of knowledge, and he's been very good to us, to be fair. And it's helped me a lot, if you know what I mean, because I've been like the things with foliar fertin and everything else and sap testing, we were doing that a little bit, but he's now actually trained me so I can read them myself. And then Ian Robertson soil tests, he's trained us how to look at them as well. So yeah, and that's kind of made it exciting again. Like I was saying earlier, and it kind of brought back the excitement, because it's not just a prescription thing where, oh, you're going to T1, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. You're actually having to work at it a little bit more, but kind of it brings you more satisfaction out of it.
So you can go in the field, grab a few leaves, get your sap.
Yeah.
And then what do you do then?
It's a little bit more. You have to get an old leaf and a new leaf from the plant. So you pick old leaves, a bag full, and then pick new leaves as well. And then you send both them off to the Netherlands, whereby they press the sap out and then send you a report back. And then the report's got 2 lines on, so each element will be down in a list. And then you have an old leaf and a new leaf. So then certain things, depending if they're deficient, will show up, or if it's robbing from the old leaf and giving to the new leaf, then you know it's a deficiency in that. Then you get other things like a copper-induced iron deficiency and all sorts of stuff like that, which, to be fair, yeah, I have to go back over my notes. I've not quite learned as well as he has, but you can pick a lot up from it. And then just like the plant sap, you can tell from the EC as to how much stress it's under, whether it's going to have pest problems or disease and everything else. So that's been a big learning curve this year. And then also trying to link it in with the soil testing we've done as well to give us a bit bigger picture. So yeah, we're doing saps probably, what are we doing? In a wheat crop, we probably test it 4 times within the year through the different growth stages, which we then alter the formulation of when we're putting foliar fert out to add the extra bits in for it.
And Liz, how many people are doing this kind of stuff regularly? I mean, I spend all my time chasing chickens and cows around.
You're assuming the people who are attending Groundswell are the people who are engaging in the sap analysis. And do you mean, and reality is that we still have to send it to the Netherlands, so there's nobody investing in a lab here. So it's not mainstream, but it's ever increasing. Certainly, my awareness mostly comes out of the wild farm stuff, because everybody who supplies into wild farm is also doing some sap testing as part of that. So again, it's increasing, but I think it's also, as Will said, it's the interpretation, it's then wanting to do something about it, then it's the foliar. So it's there's some massive steps, isn't there, that's behind it. It's not just as simple as going, oh, I just got some sap analysis and crack on. You have to sort of build up to that level of changing and decisions. Never done it in grassland. I'd like to do it in grassland this year, see what's going on.
It does make it more complicated, definitely, but the benefit out of it outweighs that, definitely. It's a lot easier when you've got a bigger crop later on in the year and you're going late, like pre flag leaf or at flag leaf, because you can fill the bag a lot quicker. When it's small and tiny, then you're taking a long time doing the samples. At one of the wild farmed meetings the other day, they did say that there's a handheld one that's being trialled now as well, sap tester. So whether we'll be able to have a go with that, and somebody did say that they were getting one to have a play with.
I saw one weirdly this week. It's the one I saw was a Sensine.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just a weird coincidence. I hadn't seen one before this week. And again, it's whether, and that's where it just opens it enough so you can put a leaf through it. So I'm guessing it's all correlated back to previous sap analyses. But again, it's interesting, do it quicker, not have to send it to the Netherlands. No disrespect to the Netherlands.
No, I can't knock them. They're pretty good. Just always use FedEx, because they pick up from FedEx every morning and send it on next day delivery, and make sure you got the right labels on. To be fair to Nova Crop, they're brilliant at telling you what you need to do and what you need to put on the outside of your box, and just make sure you put enough leaves in, because there's nothing more demoralising than them saying insufficient sample and then they won't sample some of your stuff.
So I suppose back to what we've just said. So the steps that you've got to now being where you are, which is confident in that. So how many years do you think it's taken to get to the place where you are now?
So we've probably been doing sap sampling for 4 years at least. I think we've dabbled in, definitely 4, maybe 5. When we first had Ian Robertson come out, we did some that year as well, because we ended up changing from, we'd had all of our farm mapped by one of the big mapping soil companies, and we'd been spreading P&K like there was no tomorrow, and on variable rate maps, and our maps weren't evening up at all. So they said that they'd even up, and they didn't. They did a bit, but not as what they'd said. So that was another one of me being my inquisitive self, and then tried some of these gold tests. And once we'd done a couple of them and kind of learned how to do it and got out what we were getting from it, we then took the soil type maps that we had, and I did my own zones and zoned all the farms so that we do a third each year to keep the cost down, because the gold tests are pretty costly. But we've got all of the contract farms and our farms now mapped on gold samples so that we can just go and pick a point and know where we are.
If people are interested, we've just done a webinar with Jade. She works with Ian. And so if you want to understand a bit more of the gold tests from a grass perspective, the webinar it's just come out. It's on the Carbon Calling YouTube channel. So it's an investment in time, isn't it? It's investment in money. And that, I suppose, is the interesting thing, is that, like, I went to a conference recently, and this infamous people are just going to become regenerative farmers like, we declare it to be so, but actually it's no different to any system change. It takes years to get you to the right place.
Yeah, definitely, because a lot of it is mindset change, which I hate to say, but you've got to have a different way of looking at it, because that you have got to put a lot more time and have the patience to do it. And it's almost like going back to school, because you're not learning revolutionary new things. It's all been done before, if you know what I mean. But you've got to retrain your brain to think differently, to read the sap, to be patient, that rather than just do it as a precaution, because you might not need it, if you know what I mean. So it's actually finding out whether you need to do it or not. And that is the timeline bit, is trying to fit it all in catchy times and everything else to try and make it all work together.
In our bit of the world, blackgrass, grass weeds are particularly interesting. I'll get a lot of chat about blackgrass. So Do you see them? What sort of ways have you used to deal with it? From a biological perspective, how do you deal with blackgrass?
Probably rotation has helped a lot. The sheep. So, whenever we were always indoor lambing, and then we were getting too much disease and other things within the flock, probably from just indoor, like the lambs. You keep the lambs alive, but then they'd end up going dying outside, if you know what I mean, because they weren't massively healthy. Antibiotics use was going up and up. So we made the decision one year that we were going to try some outdoor lambing and change breed to Highlander. So we did that, and that was the year from the Beast from the East. And that's the first year that we'd done cover crops in any shape or form, so that we could graze sheep on them in the winter. And it was eye-opening. To go 10 minutes down the road, it took me 2 hours with the snow. I took them a bale because we thought, oh well, they won't want to eat anything. I pushed the bale off the back of the pickup. They ate it for a little bit. I moved the fence, and they left the bale and went straight back to burying their heads through the snow to eat the thing. And I thought, right, well, that's proved that you'd rather eat that. So that was an eye opener. And then we came to lambing, and actually, it wasn't as bad as I thought it might be, lambing outside. To the extent it went quite well. And we ended up, we'd got a plan that we were going to run the old flock down over 2-3 years. And in the end, we ended up culling them all that year, just because we'd got disease inside, and then have slowly built our way back up to where we are now. We lamb about 700 and something ewes, and then we've probably got another 200 ewe lambs following them around as well. So, and then the cover crop grazing's kind of adapted from there. We've got some of our own. We're very lucky with one of our neighbours put a lot in and are very good to us, so we graze a lot for them. So that's how that's kind of adapted, if you know what I mean.
And you're still on with the Highlanders?
Yeah, still on with the Highlanders. Yeah, we've stuck with them. To be fair, we get on well with Innovus, and our vet Piers Davis does a lot with them as well. And he's helped a lot, because we kind of, when we were creep feeding lambs and feeding cake to sheep, it kind of masked a lot more of the problems as well. And not that it probably made me a shit farmer, because you knew that they were going to get that. Sorry, I probably shouldn't say that, but it made it easy. You give them a couple of pounds a day, and there's nothing wrong with it if that's what people do or anything else. But it definitely opened our eyes with grass management and how critical it is to get the grass. Well, it's what they're eating, that or the cover crops, and get it into them well, if you know what I mean. So, but yeah, we like the Highlander breed, and it comes back again to, have I found the perfect agronomist? I think you pay for what you get. It's like the same with Piers. We've got a local vet, Gina. She's really on it as well. But then you pay for Piers' advice, and you ring him up whenever, and he's very statistical, which I like. I love a spreadsheet and other bits and bobs, and he's good at crunching numbers and where we're going wrong and what we could do. Definitely.
So,
sorry, I've gone off the topic of blackgrass because I never actually answered the question. That has kind of that is how it all started, with a wider rotation, spring cropping, and sheep integration within it. We also moved from the Claydon to direct drilling. That's helped a lot. We've then since made our own tine drill. And moved, so we do move some soil because of nitrogen in the spring. You want a bit of soil movement to help with that. So yeah, it's been a combination of bits and bobs. We're not bad. We still do use chemical. We're nowhere by any means organic or fully biodynamic. I just try and adapt to use the other principles if I can. So yeah, still plenty of blackgrass about, definitely.
So you mentioned the word biodynamic there.
Yeah.
One of why Liz was really keen to get you on here was because you're one of her more biodynamic type farmers that she knows.
I've never used this word to describe Will. I think the reason why I wanted Will on because he just tries lots of different things. He's open to lots of tools.
But he's got a water
Biodynamic is one.
spirator, Liz. Spiralizer. What's it called, Will?
Flow form.
Flow form.
Flow form.
Flow form. Yeah. So this all came about from Cam. The whole all the biodynamic side and everything else kind of came. It interests me in that I love organic and everything else, but biodynamics is almost the next level. I kind of would say that biodynamics is the regen version of organic. So we've got conventional and regen. It's kind of like organic, but then biodynamic, they're probably going to hate me for saying this, is like the kind of next step on from organics in the way that it's well, I don't know. I'm now probably going to dig myself into a right big hole here with
Go on, keep going.
It kind of adds a different dimension. So it goes into cycles. So they look at more of they would call the spiritual side, natural cycles, water flow, and things like that. So when I was in Australia, Cam had a flow form, which forms the water. It sends the water down a waterfall in a figure of 8. So there's a set of forms in an odd number. I can't quite remember. There must be a reason why there's always an odd number. It's either 3, 5, or 8, or 11. I think he had an 8 one. Anyway, you circulate the water.
Eight's not an odd number. Just point out.
It's not 9. I meant 9, not 8. Sorry. Yes, fair comment.
Sorry, carry on. 9.
Yes, 9. I meant 9. Yeah, I've lost my train of thought now. No, it flows the water down into a figure of 8, sends it one way and then sends it the other. And this is adding oxygen into the water, so oxygenating it. It's something like 0.2 milligrams of oxygen is added in each decent flow form, which then effectively is adding life to it. So I said to him, well, why can't you just bubble it? But actually, a flow form the water will stay formed on higher oxygen for a longer period of time, for days rather than just hours. So if you bubble it, it'll only stay for a couple of hours. Whereas if you flow form it, it will stay structured and more oxygenated for longer, for days, is what they say. I've never checked it out, but that's what I was told. Anyway, we always used to do it for when we were spreading foliar urea on corn or anything. But he'd have a big tub of like 3,000 litres. And then the spiritual side, he'd say, you have to stand there and put your hand in it and think happy thoughts. And I thought he was taking the mickey and was trying to video me, but he was actually being serious. So this is where the spiritual side comes in, and the cycle and everything else. So this is where my interest came, because it was another way of maybe a small margin gain on something which you're actually already getting quite a big gain. So if you're doing foliar fert, depending on who you talk to, 15 kilos of urea through the leaf is the same as 80 kilos on the ground, roughly. That's like top end probably. But then if you can then get the plant to absorb it a lot quicker and also get the surface tension better so it sits on the underside of the leaf or on the leaf just by flow forming, it's a kind of an easy win for something that is only going to take you a little while to chuck a bit of water in. So that's why I kind of like, and that's how I got the bug for biodynamics and everything else. But the full biodynamics is like when you're doing the horn silica 501 and 500 preparations. I haven't actually done any of that. I know people who have, and yeah, I'm whether it would work in large scale ag, I need to try it on the veg garden first.
Well, I think the whole moon thing and the tides, like it kind of does make sense. And people do go a bit batty, don't they, with the moon?
So do you want another funny? The moon man was another man in Australia who I thought, what the hell's he on about? Anyway, I was coming on this and I'd never done it, and I'd always mean to, was to try and look the bloke up who was on about, and I found him. He's a New Zealand man called the Moon Man who went round Australia and he predicts the weather. Now, I never thought anything of it, but when Cam went away to the Acres conference, he said, well, if it rains every day, go and check the rain gauge and then write it on the back of the cupboard door. because on a chart, on a calendar. So it was actually raining, so I'd go out every day, check the rain gauge, write it down and everything else. When he got back, I said, oh, there was other numbers down next to each column already there. I said, how does that work? Because the day hadn't been. He said, oh, that's the moon man. I said, oh, what do you mean? He said, oh, well, the moon man, Ken Ring, his name is in New Zealand. He has predicted what the weather is going to do and when we're going to get rain and not get rain. And I was outstanding. I would have said he was 80 to 90% right. Like, he knew when a rain event was coming. He probably didn't get the right amount in millimeters, but most of the time he wasn't far off being able to predict it. Anyway, I've looked him up on Facebook, and he was meant to be emailing me, but I haven't had anything yet. So that's the moon man. But the moon and the cycling and the cycles and everything else, everything is one big cycle as it is, weather, whatever you want at the end of the day. The biodynamic planting calendar, we that interests me quite a lot, but that's all moon cycle. And as you said, the tides. One thing that Cam said to me, you think how the moon pulls a tide, but it actually pulls the water table as well within the ground. So, like, what water's flowing and doing underground is also massively affected by the moon. So that's probably why everyone goes a bit woo-woo.
I reframed my attitude towards the rain recently because there's some work done, which is if you give positive energy to water, then when it freezes, it produces some very beautiful crystals. If you give negative energy to water and then it freezes, that causes chaos in those structures that it freezes. So it's about this intention piece, whether it actually does it or not. But actually, it's that idea that they're now drops of goodness rather than relentless, incessant rain. So it's like a reframing I've gone through.
You're right, and that's why Cam always said, put your hand in and think happy thoughts, because it makes a big difference. And I've seen that same bit of thing. I know I laugh at it now, but I couldn't believe it when he was trying to get. There was a Zambian lad called Henry as well, and he thought, "Oh my God, what are we doing standing here like this?" But yeah.
And do you do it now though?
No, because I've done it in IBC, so I can't get my hand in it. I did tell the boys about that the other day.
Touch it, sure.
You could touch it, yeah, but then you don't want to wreck it when it's doing its nice figure of 8 in the flow form. So, but it dechlorinates water as well. That's the other main reason, to get the chlorine out for when we are doing. So it takes about 20 minutes to do 1,000 litres of water to dechlorinate. We've only got a 3 tier 1. So we leave it on for 20 minutes, and then we can then mix another batch of fert in with that, which is held, and things do, to be fair, dissolve easier in it once we've done it.
You talked about the sort of the agronomist who's sort of conventional, middle, and then regen Ben. You do the water for the farm where the agronomist is like quite conventional thinking. Do you do it for all of them?
No, not that one. No. The other one, all of the others, and Luke's, because most of the fert gets melted at home and then we tanker it out, it would have it, yeah. And then for like anything else, if we were going to Johnson Sue or something like that, then we would do that at home as well.
Are you a Johnson Sewer?
Yes.
Are you?
Yeah. We've got 3 or 4 ones now, which are, well, 2 are ready to go, one's in the making still, and then I've got a worm bin as well.
God, you're fully into it, aren't you?
Yeah, well, we had the conversation the other day because of wheat price going down. What else we can do other than there's not a chemical, it's Scion it's called, and I can't remember its exact words of what. It's not a chemical, it's like a stimulant of some sort or another. It's not massively expensive, but what else could we do to put on wheat? And Johnson Sue was one of the options that came up. There'd been some good results with yellow rust and things like that, so we're going to trial that. We've got to get an extractor for that and see whether do some trials to see whether it does aid the plant a lot. A lot of it now, we just put the Johnson Sue on the seed at the beginning to prime it. So put molasses, fish hydrolysate, and then sieve some Johnson Sue, and then bucket mix it together. and then just fill the drill up like that and go.
So you're working with Regen Ben.
Yeah.
We obviously saw you were Althorpe with Nicole Masters. Have you created your little gang of local woo-woo type farmers?
There's probably only me and Tom who are the proper
Really?
farmers. Yeah, there's a few more actually though who are quite interested in it, to be fair. But no, that's on Liz's book, isn't it? On your yeah, she's got a hand ready to tell us all about it.
We're just in the early stages of the Anglian Water cluster agreement, and so the cluster is about getting the biological farmers engaging with one another. So the aim is to amplify these networks across the Anglian Water region. And from their perspective, this is about, do you mean reducing chemicals? Do you mean it's soil health? Sort of the things that tick their boxes, but also for me, I'm interested in getting this group of really positive, open-minded farmers who are willing to try all sorts together.
Because your catchment is all drinking water, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
everything runs to a reservoir pretty much that we farm one way or another. Would run one lot goes to a pumping station, which is then pumped back straight into a resi. So yeah, they all end in reservoirs. Yeah.
So it's a fantastic place for the woo-woo stuff to be alive and kicking, I suppose. No?
I find it curious that you're being judgy of our woo-woo.
I'm not being judgy. I think it's good. I would like to see Will with his hand in the water having positive thoughts. I have got that.
You've got that image in your head, have you?
I would love it if, like, the postman came around the corner.
Yeah.
I think the bit from Biodynamic that I took, I read a book a while ago, and a lot of it is about intentions. Some of it is about the secondary metabolites that happens to be developed by burying a horn in the soil, but a lot of it is about making intentional decisions and in a thought through way. And so that's why it's interesting to wherever you engage with it, it's back to that idea of why, like asking ourselves why, which is the reason why within conventional agronomy, when someone just gives you a prescription and you just trot out and just spray some shit about, that we're trying to get people from that sort of way of thinking to sort of actually questioning some of it. They don't have to freeform their water. It is about asking why, I suppose, is where I sit a lot of the time.
But it's going back to thinking, like, when you feed sheep or when you feed cattle and they're having all those trace elements, all that feed, it does it hides a lot, doesn't it? And when you're just doing it from forage, there is a lot more for you to think about.
But then we also have to understand, well, how do we? The SAP testing is no different to regular blood testing of animals. How do we get a really interesting idea of what's actually are they taking in, and how can we enhance that? Sometimes we don't have those trace elements in the soil. Sometimes we do, and they're just not available. And generally, what we find is the biological activity of soil is what is needed to unlock quite a lot of those trace elements. So, for me, it's the story, whether it's an animal, whether it's a plant, whether it's still about how do we get it to interact as effectively as possible within an ecosystem.
But it comes back to us now, our microbiome and the interest in that and all that kind of stuff, doesn't it? So it's all linked.
Yeah, but we're endlessly looking for the magic bullet of my 55,000 supplements I take a day. So do you mean, and we're still hoping for something magical will happen. But I think what's interesting with Will's approach is that you're trying lots of different things, and also within your farming system, you've got the conventional agronomist thinking, haven't you? And all the way through to this. So you're always testing your thinking, which a lot of people aren't.
It's always not self-doubt. No, that's the wrong way of putting it. But it's always not thinking there's always something better or the grass is greener, but you're always trying to build on it, or how can it be adapted or adapt something in to your way of farming, but having an open enough mind that you might have to change something that you've always done or you've always thought you knew, if you know what I mean. And it kind of it can be hard, I'm not going to lie, when you know that something's going to work like conventionally, and if you do it, it's not going to cost a lot of money, but it just goes against where you're trying to get to, if you know what I mean. And I won't lie, yeah, we've been caught out on some stuff, and yellow rust caught us out in places. But without doing these things, you never learn, and that's my thing is I like to learn, I like to take it in, I like to keep my mind active, which I think really annoys both my parents sometimes. But that's my inquisitive brain, sadly.
And how do your mum and dad, are they obviously let you, they're happy for you to be doing all this?
Yeah, dad thinks I'm mad in creating more work and everything, definitely, but he has come round to it a lot more. Mum was more the sheep side. Her family were pedigree Texels for years. So that's been a big change doing that, but even she's took it on quite well. And like the health side and everything else, because it is, as you said earlier on, it is all one big picture, if you know what I mean, because you kind of what you eat at the end of the day, and it does make a big difference. As I said earlier on, I went to go and see a kinesiologist woman because my guts are not good at certain times, and I thought it was just abuse from beer and everything else, but it's actually that I just can't eat wheat or oats at the moment because my body's just not coping with it. So since stopping that, which isn't really ideal when you're an arable farmer and that's your main stream of income, but it definitely opened my eyes on it. But it's a different way of looking at it. Rather than just going to the doctor, it's a different kind of perspective on medicine.
Holistical, Nick.
Yeah, and you like that, Nick, don't you?
I love it.
Good thinking.
I love it. It's I've been particularly I'm going to blow my own trumpet now. I've been particularly healthy recently, and it just makes such a difference. Yeah, makes such a difference. But the thing that really knocks me sideways is alcohol.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I just get horrendous hangovers, but I do really love it, but I've kept away from it, and I think it makes my mood really low. It's I know it was short term super high, and then you drop down. But can you could, how does alcohol affect you, Will?
Yeah, as the lady said to me the other day, everything's all right in moderation. But yeah, I struggle to refrain sometimes, should we say, from moderation. But it's no, I enjoy it. I enjoy having a drink and whatnot. Yeah, like a lot of people. But I think if I could cut it out, I'd be even more healthier than I already am, definitely. But I'm not bad. I'm not bad. No, my wife would probably say differently, but
We forgot to mention the legend that is John Kemp came to see you before Groundswell. How was that on your stress levels?
it was random, and just not in a bad way, in a really good way. In that I can still vividly remember it now. That Ian Gold, he was the man, bless him, sorted it all out. He rang me, and I was sitting in a car park somewhere. I can't remember where I was, and he just said, "Oh, got a bit of a problem. Thought you might be able to help," and your name came up, and I thought of you. I thought, oh God, what have I done now? He said, I got John Kemp coming over. Where we were meant to be going has just let me down. This was 2 days or a day before. Can I bring him to yours? I said, well, yeah, I'd love to, but I haven't really got a lot to show him. But him and his team came, and phenomenal amount of information. So we went and looked at some rate because of the flea beetle issue and everything. This was a couple of years ago. This was, wasn't it last year? No, not last year, the year before, wasn't it? And he said about just from looking at the plant, he kind of picked up on what we were low on. He knew we were low in boron because of I think the rape plant he'd picked up had got something like 20 separate sites of where it could have podded, and it had only podded on probably 2/3 of where it could have done. So it's like you've lost out on a third of your yield. That's just literally because you're lacking boron at this point. And just little bits like that, kind of how his knowledge that he's just built up himself, if you know what I mean. We then came back and looked at some sap tests and sat around the kitchen table, which I never ever thought I'd be able to say that I'd had John Kemp sitting around my kitchen table. And the thing they've got is the data set, because they've been doing SAPs for so long, and they've kind of interpreted it in their own way from the gist of I've got it. And the levels you'll get on a SAP test aren't probably quite true to where you want to be. They'd aim for higher on certain ones and lower on other ones. And yeah, he was very good. We went and looked at some grass as well, and he told me why I was failing with that. So yeah, I felt massively insignificant, to be honest. But it was brilliant. It was brilliant. The scariest bit was we sat there at the table and he said, "Oh, I'm recording the whole lot so I can keep it for my private notes." And we all thought he was joking. And he pulled his beard away and he got a microphone sitting under his beard, recording absolutely everything we'd said the whole time we'd been there. So yeah, it was interesting. It was the talk of the town, well, the village anyway, because they went to the pub for lunch, and then the media turned up, and they let him go upstairs to do a media interview. And of course, he said they'd told the landlord that he'd been here, and the landlord was like, "What the hell? Who was this Amish bloke you'd got at your farm? What the hell was going on?" So yeah, no, it was very, very interesting. Definitely, yeah. It'd be interesting that some people have been trialing some of his products like BioGold this year on as a seed treatment. We didn't actually do it just because I got enough going on as it was. And it'd be interesting to see what results come from it. So yeah, he's another one. But to be fair, I can't knock everybody who I've ever asked within this industry for advice, or just drop them an email randomly or something, have always been very, very helpful. And it's kind of it's made me feel that's probably one of my downfalls. I always try and help people if I can, or one way or another, but I always feel I've been helped, so I ought to try and repay back, if you know what I mean, if I can, one way or another. So yeah, no, fountain of knowledge. I love his podcast. To be fair, it is very in depth, and yeah, I probably can't do it justice because I was just a bit starry eyed when he was wandering around trying to
with his amazing homemade clothes.
Yeah, yeah, they're all
Incredible.
his clothes were homemade, everything. And then we said, "Well, how does it work with the technology?" But he says he's allowed technology for work and whatnot. And yeah, his team, brilliant. It all started. Kish, his parents only live at Great Brinkton, which I'm sure is his parents or some of his family, which is only like 3 villages away from us. So I got talking to him when he was over at an Oak Bank event a while ago, and that's how it kind of all started. So yeah, but the team were brilliant, friendly, lovely people, and my God, he does know his stuff.
My favourite podcasts are his Q&As. I just think you listen to that and just go, bloody hell, you're never going to know any of, like, even a fraction of the stuff that's in his brain.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't, yeah, I don't know how they retain it. Ben's the same. You ask him a question, you'll see it wear away in his brain, and then he'll come out with the answer, and you just think, well, how the hell have you retained that? I've had to start recording things now because my brain's rubbish at remembering stuff.
You got to grow a beard so you can hide it in your beard, so you can become.
Yeah.
Full
regen. I mean, I get the Mickey taken out of me anyway that I'm a sandal wearing whatnot as it is from a lot of my mates. So yeah, this will definitely put fuel on the fire for it.
So do you ever think what would have happened if you hadn't met Cam?
Yeah, I probably do actually. Yeah, because that's where it all kind of started and sparked it off. I mean, it was a big slow burner anyway, in that it's only within the last 7 years where we've been doing a lot more, and the last 4 years where we've been like really homing in on SAP testing and everything else. It's yeah, I don't know where I'd be. It's a bit of an odd one, trying to think how it would have played out, because I honestly do not know.
It's funny, isn't it, how
Probably
you
would
meet
have got there.
people, and it's like you meet someone and then you go on a different,
But then since I've like known you, Liz, then kind of your way of thinking has changed. Wouldn't you agree?
Dramatically.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yep.
From our first like well and massive sheep grazing group.
I think there's a curiosity that underpins it, doesn't it? That's what we're sort of tapping into, is that
Yeah.
we're interested and we find a bit out, and then we find something else out, and then we talk to someone and find something else out. So, and that, I suppose, I hope that I do look back on some of the meetings where I've done quite a lot of telling and go, I should have done that. But that's just the joy of also being in the industry for frighteningly 20 years, isn't it? I thank God I've evolved. Can you imagine if you're still talking about the same stuff you were 20 years ago?
I think that's one of the most important things that I've took out of it. And there's an Australian company I do a bit of benchmarking and stuff with. One of their things is, if you're not evolving and moving forward, you're sitting still. And if you're sitting still, you almost may as well be going backwards, because if you're not actually trying to either better yourself, better and move your business on, it's only going to go downhill. And especially with the way, sadly, farming is at the moment. I mean, we won't get into politics or anything else, but they're going to be quite happy to import it and just we can rewild everything. And you've got to be looking for the next marginal gains, because as you said, there's no silver bullet coming. It's all kind of there or thereabout of what we've got to do, if you know what I mean. But you've just got to look for little bits which can improve what you do, I think, to be honest.
Mm.
And
So,
we're doing it with an element of happiness. Is that happiness is part of the instructions? That's what I think interesting. So you go to a lot of meetings, and like it feels like all positivity has been sucked out of the room, versus going to a
yeah.
meeting when you're trying to put happiness into an IBC.
Yeah.
So it's like a reframing of how do I want to be in the world, which is I prefer to be with the slight woo-woo people and at least happy than the other lot are just thinking, let's find a cliff to jump off.
But Will, if someone's listening and thinks, I would quietly like to have a look at this kind of stuff. Is there any books or YouTubes or podcasts where they could start?
To be fair, the John Kemp one, I listen to that a lot.
I find it quite. It is quite academic, isn't it? Like if you're just on the cusp, as Liz would say.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking whether he slightly scare you off. If
he probably would, because in technical. Tell you what, let me look on my thing. The Vic No-Till ones, to be fair, they're pretty good. They're an Australian one, in that they do lots of different broad things from whatever they're doing. And I did listen to them at Groundswell. They were pretty good, to be fair. Who else? There's the Eco Farmer. That one's quite a good one. That was the book. He wrote a book as well. Tom got me onto that one. What other ones are there? I listen to Head Shepherd a lot. Of course, the Sheep Geeks, all of that.
Head Shepherd.
Head Shepherd, that's for sheep. To be fair, they're pretty good. The Grounded one with Stuart's pretty good. The Biological Farming Roundtable. Now they're Nutrisoil, so they do the worm juice in Australia. So a lot of them are Australia orientated. And then Acres USA, that's another good one, to be fair. And there's like Farming 4.0. There's lots of good one. Farming for Change. There's no end.
Okay.
It's finding what you want to listen your level, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, the John Kemp one for me, well, my brain's not big enough for all that kind of chat. But
No, the only other one is for like just overall farm business, and this is the Profitable Farmer. That's an Australian one. That's quite a good listen, to be fair. There's that's linked in with the company that I did some benchmarking with and whatnot.
and if someone was listening and says, well, they're all in Australia, what this isn't Australia, what would you say to that? What would your answer be?
Broaden your horizons, pretty much, because there's quite a lot out there. Just because it's not in our country, yeah, and there are lots of good podcasts in our country, definitely, yeah, and some of them are. It can still be put into your context, and all over the world, farming has the similar issues one way or another, whether it's politics, weather, it all kind of amalgamates, and you end up with the same thing. We're trying to produce something for a market, aren't we? At the end of the day, we all have our hands tied in different ways, one way or another, and it's just what you do and how you choose to look at it to open your perspective at the end of the day, I'd say.
Very good answer, Will.
I was going to ask you for your top tip. So, for where do you start? SAP test, agronomist, visits.
I think the agronomist one you've got to is a hard one, because a lot of people are either good friends with them or have known them for a long while. You have to put a lot of, depending on how you're doing, you have to put a lot of trust in an agronomist, because they're telling you what they're seeing, so, and advising you as well. So I don't want to slag anyone off, or everyone has their own way. I would try and get set in your head where you want to go before you talk to the agronomist, because if they're real conventional, they'll try and talk you around it. There are plenty of decent, well, there's also plenty of rubbish ones as well, regen agronomists out there. You pay for what you get at the end of the day, I think, is some of it. Independent advice, I think, goes a long way, would be what I'd say. And don't be scared to ask the questions, and don't be scared if it doesn't work, just to say no. Don't swallow your pride and think you've got to carry on with it. If it's not working, change it. Why keep going with something it's hard enough at times as it is without having another battle on your hand. So yeah, on the agronomist front, just try and get clear in your head what you want to start with, and then there's plenty of them out there that could help you.
I think it's about having you have to be clear about where you want to go, rather than rely on that a person you're buying in to tell you where you're going to go.
Yeah, it comes back down to you just being more vigilant and putting the effort in, but then you have to have the enthusiasm for it as well, and the drive. It does, and a lot of people probably do lack the drive with the way the prices are and everything else, but there's not a lot. Well, you can't do a lot about it, so you've just got to try and work around it and find other ways of doing it. The only other thing is what we are on is I did say, not give them a plug, but we've got involved with a nitrogen sensor, which actually might be a good thing. Well, I don't know whether you've ever tried it in grass. Is it Humberto? And I'm probably going to knacker up how you pronounce it, but it's Nerit, something like that. It's a German make, and this is giving us real-time data on nitrogen. It's extracting it from the soil. So this is hopefully going to be a big game changer when it comes to the nitrogen as to how much we're feeding, and we're going to try and relate it to SAP testing as well. It's spelled NERIT'. So we've got a couple of these in, and it wasn't the best last year in the dry conditions because it can't extract, but as soon as it was extracting, it can see and spike with when it's getting taken up. They're then putting it with NDVI imagery to try and then build a bigger picture and hopefully help us with the nitrogen management. Because that's one of our biggest things we've done. We've massively cut fertilizer by going foliar, and we've gone it's more efficient. We're able to put the trace elements in it, and it's also hopefully saving us a bit of money. So we've probably gone from 200 kilos a hectare, and then we've been as low as 130 of N. So that's going in the right direction, definitely. But he's also looking for someone in the UK to take it on. I've been doing bits for him and whatnot, but if anybody would like to, who's got a techie mind, and it's pretty impressive what he's doing, get in touch with me, because I think there's a lot of legs in it. We've got 4 in the area now, 4 or 5 actually, thinking about, because James got 2. So it's got some legs, definitely. But that's just another one of my things that I just can't. I've always got to.
I wonder where you're going to go next.
I probably just need to try and finish a few projects off. I need to get I've built a Chaos Spring sprayer for doing grassland. My next aim, we rent a lot of permanent pasture off of one person, and it's not in the best of nick. And I've done some gold soil tests on it, and that this year is the grass year. I'm gonna push grass more than anything this year to try and improve it. And it's had ant hills, and it's just not been very well loved for a while. So we'll see. And we've been doing gypsum on grass as well, hopefully. We do a lot of gypsum on the arable, but we've actually started doing some on the grass. So hopefully that'll come to something as well.
We've done that. But maybe I should send you our soil tests, see what you think. Our gold ones. They're so complicated.
The only good thing is they are all on one page.
I know, but when you're a bit of a specco like me, that's not that helpful.
You need to just have a sheet and just uncover them in sections, like old school
I think
OHP.
I think I must be slightly slipedexic, and I think it's just very full. It's just a lot of stuff to take in.
It's like anything new, though, isn't it? You must be disheartened by it just because the first time it doesn't go well.
Yeah. No, I need it debunking.
Yeah.
But thank you, and we'll just look forward to see what happens next.
Yeah. Definitely.
I think you need a YouTube channel.
You reckon?
Oh,
I don't know about that. I don't know. Well, yeah, I don't like the sound of my own voice. So how am I going to do that? I did one video because I'm also chairman of our local RABI, and I did a video promoting an event. We had a winter drinks event, and I had to do like in selfie mode to take this video promoting it, and I absolutely hated it. It took me like 8 times just to get out 30 seconds of words, and I just fair play to anybody, any influencers who can go and stand and talk at a camera, because I can't. I just was a blubbering mess.
Well, you end up feeling, if anyone saw you standing in a field as you yabbering on, oh my goodness.
Yeah, try not to do it near any footpaths.
We are going to rule the Anglian Water area in the next 3 years once we get the cluster running. Biological barbecues, curiosity days everywhere. Be good.
So is Will going to be your
yes, I've stolen the idea from Nicole.
Is Will going to be your like right hand farmer, like a golden ball?
Alternatively, he's just going to host a meeting for one of the groups.
Are you going to have multiple groups then, or just one?
It's going to rule the world. Well,
3 groups.
You got 3 groups, have you? What, in different areas?
So if you look at the Anglian Water region, it's a bit like a clover. So there's one like Lincolnshire, then there's Northamptonshire, and then there's East Anglia. So it's 3 areas. So it's picking up people in each of those areas, and then if you want to go and see someone in Norfolk, you can. So the network will be in all of them. The focused activities will be in the 3 leaves.
I'm quite impressed.
What I'm playing around with actually is what farmers need currently is more social than technical. So actually the ratio of actually just getting together and having a chat is higher than the techie events.
How polluted are your reservoirs?
Yeah, the one closest to us has been shut for a long period.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
It got pipisamide in it.
Got what?
Pipisamide.
Oh, that sounds a
Yeah.
bit pissy.
A bit pissy.
What's that?
It's a grassweed chemical which you put on for beans. Well, it was on a crop of beans, yeah. So it ended in the watercourse and has shut it down for quite a while.
Oh.
So yeah, not ideal.
Oh.
And that was through the drought as well. So they weren't allowed to draw off of it. So yeah, to be fair to Anglian Water, this is why they are keen to try and fund things like this. I must say they've been very, very kind to me and helped me out a lot, like the foliar fir melting stuff. They've done that. The flow form, they paid for some of that. And then this time they've paid for the some of the bucket mixer for mixing the seed. So we can mix our own cover crops and put the Johnson Sue on the seed and everything else as well. So they're pro it, definitely. Any way of trying to prevent it getting in to at the point of source, if you know what I mean. The hard thing is it's as soon as drains start running, it just we had a deluge of rain and it just kind of got in there, and that's it, and it's not gone since. So yeah, you got to feel for them a little bit.
Mm.
My farm it will be one of the farms within the area, and so we're in a drinking water catchment. So the theory being, if rain falls on our farm, it's in Stamford within about 40 days. We talk about like the uplands being these really important catchment areas and reservoirs, but actually lots and lots of farmland has that very close relationship with drinking water that we don't always think about.
It wasn't anything intentional, and they've done nothing wrong to the label. It just how it happened with a weather event, and it was a few weeks after they'd actually sprayed it. So it just shows how persistent it can be. And I'm not bashing it. We still use it. We still use chemical and everything else. And this is the hybrid system, which I kind of like the idea of picking bits from every system to try and make it fit, if you know what I mean, with the end goal that I think we'll either lose them because they've been banned, or that we won't need them, if you know what I mean. One way or another, we can get a ecosystem healthy enough to go. So that's my grand plan, part of my BHAG.